Well, any suggestions, or shall I come up with something, or does anyone want to suggest something? A topic?
Chintamani?
Yeah. Do you have any requests, Chintamani?
You're so sweet, Vishakha Didi. We have a guest here who might have a question.
Oh, moment.
Who's that?
Come say hi.
Un momento.
Momento. Italiano.
Maybe my video will work. Here, you can say hi too. Maybe video work.
Hello.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Welcome.
I got to listen to you last week.
Oh, really? Were you with us? Cool.
Yeah, Jaya Deva sent me a link and tied me into the weave.
Okay, nice. And sorry, what is your name again?
Many names, but they call me Ram or Ramananda right now. So
Okay, very nice. Very nice to meet you, Ramananda.
there he is. He appeared.
Ramananda was the name of our grandfather guru, Srila Sridhar Maharaj, his initiated name. So it is a special name for us. And Ramananda is also the name of one of the dearest associates, friends of Lord Chaitanya, who is our principal deity.
Haribol.
So it is also, it is a special name. Ramananda.
Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda.
So you know about the Panchatattva.
I know some things, but mostly I don't know anything. So still just dancing in these leelas.
Well, that's a good place to be. If we can always feel like we don't know anything, then we're definitely in a good place. We don't know anything, but we're hungry for more. That's the best. That's the healthiest. Hunger is a symptom of health. So we feel that we need something more inside of us, and we're eager for that, then we're in a good place.
Right. I'm blessed by good association. That's one good thing. I must have done two good things right in my previous lifetime. I have great Vaishnav company since I was younger. So.
Oh, really? Huh?
Yeah.
Since your youth.
Yeah, I think Nishringadev was my first meeting when
really?
Vaishnav, and yeah, and then I saw that to me that was what God would look like, and so Shtabdo, I was stunned, and it was 20 years later I was chanting kirtan with Madhava Naidu at a Krishna farm in Mississippi, chanting Maha Mantra for 24 hours. And this Prabhu had appeared and we started this conversation. I've been blessed to be many places with many beings. And so he was like, whatever got you into the Krishna, chanting Maha Mantra? And I said, well, this one time I was traveling in Atlanta and incense led me on my skateboard to this store. And in the store, there was on an easel, a painting of Narasimha. I turned the corner and I was like, And so this man goes, Nishringadev, do you know the story? Such a sweet devotee. And so he shared with me the story. And 20 years later, I'm chanting at a kirtan and he asked me what knowledge I have. Like, why am I chanting Maha Mantra with these beings? And I was like, I don't know. I'm just a skateboard kid from Florida. And next thing you know, I tell him the story about the incense and Nishringadev. He goes, that was me.
My goodness. Wow. Yeah. Wow. What a story.
Yeah. So from Gauravani to Vishvambar, Vish, my dear brother Vish, to Madhava, dear brother. And I've been around the world in some places with them, from Bali to, yeah. So not to name drop, just sincerity from the heart, for being so blessed to have such good company.
Wow. That's beautiful. Beautiful to hear your story. I find it very interesting that you were attracted to Lord Nrsingadev because many persons they you know, objectively speaking, Nrsimhadev is a frightening figure. So
I just see beauty like Kali, you know. To me, it's
that
beauty.
shows your sukriti, your spiritual fortune that you, because
Sukriti, that's
objective.
a beautiful word.
Oh, do you know that word sukriti?
I don't.
Sukriti means spiritual fortune that's been acquired as a result of previously rendering some service. So if one has this is actually the beginning. Our gurus have described the stages of development, and sukriti is the beginning. And there are two types of sukriti. There's what is called agyata sukriti, means unknowingly acquired good fortune. And then gyata sukriti means consciously acquired. And so this is the beginning of our spiritual journey, that we unknowingly will render some service to divinity, you know, to the saints, to the Vaishnavas, to the Lord, you know, just through something like offering a glass of water to a Vaishnava, or opening the door for a Vaishnava, any little thing like that. Or like animals, they will acquire a gyata sukriti through taking prasad remnants, through circumambulating a temple, you know, like that, bowing to a Vaishnava. In these types of ways, one can unconsciously acquire this spiritual merit, spiritual fortune, wealth. And then once that has developed to a sufficient degree, then that will awaken within the plane of consciousness, and that individual will begin to ask questions, to seek out, or they'll feel some attraction, like the way that you felt natural attraction to Nrsimhadev. You know, that's the result of sukriti, you know, fructifying, revealing itself, manifesting. And then that sukriti develops into shraddha, faith. And it is that same substance, shraddha. So this is like the line, sukriti, shraddha, and then that will develop into prema, divine love. That is the sequence.
Which comes from parama prema.
So, but one interesting thing about Nrsimhadev, because Nrsimhadev, he's very angry, right? When he appears in this fearsome form, and he's you know, very angry because he's, you know, destroying this demon. But what's interesting about it is that, you know, it can appear as frightening, right? And there are many people, they don't understand why we would worship this type of figure, and why should God appear in this fearsome and angry form. But actually, this is an expression of love. In his manifestation as Nrsimhadev, it's more about expressing his love and protection for his dear devotee Prahlad. You know, it's not about him being angry or frightening, but it's about him demonstrating his love for his most beloved devotee. That is really what that is. And that pastime of Prahlad is very beautiful, and it is very important for us. You know, it is something that has been emphasized by our gurus. You know, there are many valuable teachings within that Leela, within that pastime. And one of the points, I mean, in the line of Shuddha Bhakti, of pure devotion, and one of the key points in that Leela, there are many, but one of them, Nanga Krishna Prabhu's joining us, Dandavat from Tijuana, welcome. And one of the principal points in that Leela is that Prahlad, he has no, and this is like the foundation of pure devotion, is that he's not asking for anything in return. You know, because normally in the practice of bhakti or any type of spiritual practice, there is a conscious or unconscious desire for something in return for one's own gain, you know, whether it is something within the material side or something within the spiritual side. There is some desire there, some expectation. And this is something that runs through all faiths, within the Vedic world and outside of the Vedic world. But this is where the practice of pure devotion is this is what distinguishes the practice of pure devotion from that which is mixed. That there's no other desire other than to please the heart of one's Lord, to render some service. And after Nrsingadev has finished his business with Hiranyakashipu, then he tells Prahlad, "Oh, I'm so pleased with you. I want to offer you some benediction." It is natural. He's so pleased with Prahlad's devotion. He wants to give some token of appreciation. And Prahlad, when he hears that, he's a little offended. He's hurt by that. Like, what? How can you offer me something in return? My only desire is to love you and to serve you. How could there be any question of wanting anything else in return for that? And there's one phrase there, na sabritya sa vaivanik, that one who serves you and expects something in return, they are not a devotee, they are not a servitor, but they are a merchant. They want to do business with you. Right. So this is one of the key lessons in the teachings of Prahlad. And this is also something which has been emphasized by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and it is mentioned in the verses of his Shikshashtakam, which you may be familiar with. And those verses are so valuable for us. We can discuss them at some point. But the fourth verse of the Shikshashtakam, Nadanam Najanam Nasundaram Kavitam Jagadisha Kamaye Mama Janmani Janmanishware Bhavatad Bhaktir Haituki Twai. And here in this verse, Mahaprabhu Sri Chaitanya Dev, he's listing all the things that people hanker after in this world. All the things that people live for, die for, kill for. Mahaprabhu's one by one rejecting them. Not dhanam, wealth. I'm not interested in acquiring wealth within this world. Not janam. I'm not interested in acquiring followers, power, popularity. Not sundaram, enjoyment of the senses. I'm not looking for that. Kavitam jagadisha kamaye. And this is referring to the prospect of liberation. And generally, these are the two things which persons aspire after. Or in another way that is summarized as being the tendencies for exploitation and renunciation. To either enjoy, consume, exploit within this world, or to become free from this world, to the desire to get out of this world. These are actually two sides of the same coin. Why? Because they're both based on individual interests. They're both based on the spirit of selfishness. So Mahaprabhu, he's rejecting all these, and these are also things which are also expressed within what are the four principal aims of the general Vedic religion: dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. Piety, duty, wealth, sense pleasure, and moksha, liberation. So Mahaprabhu's and this is one of the things which Mahaprabhu is principally known for, that he came with the fifth goal, Pancham Purushartha, the fifth goal of life, Krishna Prema. This is generally, people see the Vedas as advocating these four ends of life, but Mahaprabhu has come with this big flag and said, no, there is another goal. There is another end to be aspired after, and that is Krishna Prema. This is really the only wealth, the only thing to be aspired after. So in Mahaprabhu's verse, Shikshashtak verse, Mama Janmani Janmanishware Bhava Tat Bhaktir Haitu Ki Twayi. He's saying, I don't want any of these things, all these things that the world is offering, and what can be offered beyond this world also. I'm not asking for that. And we can also, this point about liberation, there are two ways in which liberation is conceived, can be conceived of. One liberation from this world and entering into what you could call nirvana, or a plane of consciousness, just a non-differentiated plane of consciousness. The abscissa, to become free from the negative side and to attain a place within a zone of spiritual oneness. So that is one way in which liberation can be conceived of. But then there's also a positive conception of liberation, to enter into the positive, dynamic spiritual world, which is something that Vaishnavism offers. And this is something that is generally vague, hazy in other religious conceptions. But Vaishnavism is presenting this prospect in a clear way. So there is also a positive conception of liberation. But Mahaprabhu doesn't accept even that as something to be aspired after. No. That may be something that the Lord will grant, that may be something that will come, but the purest hearted devotee will never aspire for such a thing. So what is to be aspired after? Mama Janmani Janmanishre Bhavatad Bhaktir Haitu Ki Twayi. The only thing I want is to love you. The only thing I want is to have pure ahaituki. Ahaituki means without any cause, means without any selfish cause, with no vested interest. Ahaituki bhakti, pure, unmotivated devotion for you. That is the only thing which Mahaprabhu has advocated, which he has accepted as being a worthy goal of life. And he goes so far as to say, Mama Janmani Janmanishware, let me take birth, Janma again and again. So even I may be within this cycle of samsara for eternity, but I don't care for that. It does not matter. No. There's another prayer of Bhakti Vinod Thakur where he's saying, let me take, I would rather take birth as an insect in the home of your devotees, Lord, than to take birth as the creator, Lord Brahma, who has the highest position within the whole of the material zone. To be born as Lord Brahma in this high post without any association of the devotees, I will never want that. But I would rather be born as an insect in the home of to have good association. That is preferable. And this is and in this state, for one who has attained the state of prema, it doesn't matter, where one is. That consciousness will transcend all circumstantial factors. That will go beyond whatever situation, whatever circumstance, whatever environment one is in. It won't matter if one is situated in this consciousness of pure love. There's one incident in Srimad Bhagavatam, our principal scripture, what's his name again? Someone here will remember, I'm sure. Chinmoy, would you remember the king who was cursed by Parvati? I can't remember his name.
Yeah.
What did you say?
Daksha?
No, not Daksha. No.
Head, huh?
I can't remember right now, but
You mean
anyway.
die in 7 days?
No, not a Parikshit Maharaj. No, it's not so well known, but somewhat well known, this pastime. But anyway, one king who's actually a great devotee of Lord Vishnu, he one day was flying in his airplane, and he came across a gathering presided over by Lord Shiva. And Lord Shiva, as we know, he's a little eccentric. He doesn't abide by the normal regulations, customs that normal persons do, right? He's independent. So his behavior is not always so genteel, we can say. And so he saw that Lord Shiva was presiding over this meeting, and he was practically naked, as he often is, and he was sitting with Parvati Devi in his lap, and it was an assembly of sages there, and so this was quite an astonishing sight, that Shiva would so like boldly, with no shyness, sit like this, in front of these very renounced sages. And so this king, he made some comments of surprise, like, oh, how can Lord Shiva sit like this? And he didn't mean anything, ill by that. He was not being offensive. And Lord Shiva didn't mind. Okay, Brajamahini Didi, Dandavat, thank you for joining us.
Dandavat.
He's meeting with Nika.
Okay.
So Lord Shiva, he didn't mind. He knew also this king was a great devotee, and he knew he didn't mean anything by it. But Parvati was a little offended, and on behalf of her husband. And so she became very angry. She cursed this king, Chitraketu, I think it is. Chitraketu, I think it was king.
Yes, that's it.
Yes, you remember, yeah, Chitraketu. And so Parvati cursed him to have a hellish birth in his next life. And that took place. He was born as Vitrasura, of a demonic birth in his next life. And then Parvati was very surprised, because Chitraketu, he didn't become upset in any way, and he didn't make any he didn't react to her curse. He simply humbly accepted it, and he went on his way. And so Parvati was surprised to see this, that he was so passive about this, and she made a comment to Lord Shiva, why, what happened? He didn't become angry or anything at all. And then Lord Shiva, he responded saying, oh, don't you know that the devotees of Lord Vishnu, they're not bothered by anything, And there's a Narayana, there's a very nice verse that Narayana Parisarve Naku Taschana Bibhyati Swarga Pavarga, like that, saying that those who are filled with devotion for Lord Narayan, whether they are in heaven, in hell, in earth, it doesn't make any difference to them. They are so fulfilled, so satisfied by this wealth within their hearts, that whatever environment they're in, it does not matter to them. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he discusses this pastime in one place, and he said very charmingly that Chitraketu, or the devotees, they are protected by this very special undergarment, this undergarment of prema. This is protecting them from everything within this environment. So we are very far away, of course, from such things, but we are very happy to know we can have some idea of how such a thing is possible. Although we are not there, it is very far from us. We can have some idea. We know that everything is consciousness, and our whole experience of reality is based upon our own consciousness, our own view, our own subjective vision is actually creating our experience. So if one is living in the consciousness of pure love for the Lord, then that will radically change our whole experience. That will affect our physical experience also within the environment. Anyway, that's a side point. The main point is the very attractive prospect of living a life of pure devotion. The prospect that love is all in all. Love is everything. This has charmed us. There's a beautiful comment of Srila Sridhar Maharaj where he says something like, it is only the prospect of love which has drawn us out of our, how does he say, like out of our corners, our boxes and our corners. Everyone in this world, we're living in some little constructed box, some concocted box. It is like a cage. We've all constructed these cages for ourselves, which we are hiding in. And we are living in these very, finite. We've created these tiny, finite, worlds in which we live. But somehow or other, by our good fortune, we have been drawn out of these. We've heard this call. The flute song of Krishna, the Sankirtan call of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has attracted us out of our tiny little boxes, and we have come out to join this procession, which is waving the flag of Krishna Prema. This has drawn us out. There's a very well-known verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita, the principal scripture about the life and teachings of Sri Chaitanya Dev. No, is it? Yes, it is Chaitanya Charitamrita. Brahmanda Brahmite kon Bhagyavan Jeev, Gu Krishna Prasade Pai Bhakti Lata Bij. That Brahmanda Brahmite kono Bhagyavan Jeev. Bhagyavan Jeev means the fortunate soul, the fortunate jiva. Means the jiva who has acquired some sukriti, which we were discussing earlier. Coming in connection with the saints, they have acquired the spiritual fortune. And Brahmanda Brahmite Guru Krishna Prasade Pai Bhakti Lata Bij. Then making contact with Guru and Krishna, receiving the mercy of Guru and Krishna, then they receive the Bhakti Lata Bij, means the seed of the creeper of devotion. This is a beautiful analogy which has been given by Lord Chaitanya, and it is described in Chaitanya Charitamrita that this is the gift that is given by the Vaishnavas. And this means faith. This Bhakti Lata Bij, seed of devotion, means Shraddha, means faith. So they give us the gift of faith, and this wonderful analogy is given of a seed, So they're giving us the seed, and then our duty is to care for that seed, to water that seed, to fertilize the soil, to provide sunlight, all of these things. And
sorry to interrupt, Didi, but we want to introduce you to our friend really quick here.
Namaskar.
Namaskar, namaskar. Pranam.
Pranams.
This is our dear friend Swami Shankarananda.
Oh, what an honor.
Oh, no, Shivaya. Very good to meet you.
This is Sri Yukti Vishakha. She's a Swamini friend.
Ah, beautiful. Beautiful. Swami. Beautiful.
Oh, well, thank you for giving us your good company.
Oh, thank you.
He's our gracious beloved here who's allowed us the privilege to be part of this wonderful community. He's a real peace pilgrim here.
Aha. Okay, wonderful, wonderful. Well, thank you for looking after our friends.
Yes, yes, of course. It's very easy. Oh, no, Shivaya. Very good to meet you, Swami. Oh.
How do you get back to this?
So this analogy is given by Sri Chaitanya Dev, and so he says that we must become a gardener, you know. Say, how does it go? Say beach, koruye say chan. But he says that, you know, one who's received this seed of devotion, faith, then they have to become a gardener, and they have to take care of that seed. You know. And so the Shavana Kirtana Jale Koruye Shechan, then this analogy continues. Shravan and Kirtan, hearing, the practices of hearing and chanting, they are the water which nourish the seed. All of our material habits and attachments, our lower tendencies, you know, they are compared to weeds within that garden, which must be uprooted and thrown away, taken up from the root and removed. And the most serious danger in this garden is the tendency to criticize the devotees, to be envious or critical of the devotees. And that is compared, the analogy given for that is an Indian analogy of a mad elephant who will come into your garden and destroy everything. You know, like for us, it might be a fox that comes in and digs up your plants and takes them up by the root. and then it is very, very nice. Then I can't remember the Bengali, but it is described how, you know, if one can overcome all of these challenges on the path, then that creeper will begin to sprout, and it will grow and grow. It will grow through all the different planes of, and we can think of these different planes in both a geographical, but more in a geographical way, but more specifically, more pertinent to our discussion is we can think of them as planes of consciousness. You know, all of the strata, the different strata within the material zone, we can think of as different planes of consciousness, going from lower to higher planes of consciousness. And we can conceive of that as our faith moving through all of these things. And that means different ideas, you know, different conceptions which will attract us. You know, everything in this world, and this is something our Gurudev Srila Govinda Maharaj used to talk about sometimes, that we can conceive of this plane as having a particular gravitational field. And, you know, everything has its own pull, its own power of attraction. And according to the degree of our faith, according to how strong our Shraddha, our faith is, we will be more or less attracted by the gravitational fields of different conceptions within the material zone. And so if we can think of it, if our creeper is weak, then it will get stuck at some particular zone, some particular plane of consciousness. We won't be able to go past that. But if our creeper is strong, if we think of a creeper climbing up a wall, it will be able to go past, so many different layers, so many different levels, in the same way that our consciousness, our faith will bring us through so many different planes of attraction within the material zone. And if our Shraddha, if our faith can take us past all the different conceptions within the Brahmanda, within the material plane, then it will reach Goloka Vrindavan, Krishna's abode. It will reach the lotus feet of Krishna, and it will bear the fruit of prema, of divine love. And we can take that fruit there. We can eat that fruit. That is the gift of Sri Chaitanya Dev, the gift of Srimad Bhagavatam. At the beginning of Bhagavatam, it compares Krishna prema. It uses this analogy of a fruit, of a very sweet and succulent fruit that has no skin, has no seed. All in that verse, it is the second verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. Nigama kalpataror galitam phalam shuka mukha mrita drava samitam pibata. I can't remember the rest, but it gives a very, very nice analogy there of all of the Vedic scriptures as being like a wish-fulfilling tree. And what is that wish-fulfilling tree granting? What is it giving? It is the ideals of Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, which we were mentioning earlier. These four principal objectives of humankind, the aspirations for duty or piety, wealth, sense pleasure, and liberation, moksha. So these are the four things which the Vedas are granting, and which humankind, for the most part, is seeking after fulfillment within these four planes. So the Vedas, they are compared to a wish-fulfilling tree that is fulfilling these four objectives. It is granting everyone's desires for these four things. And then the Vedanta, which is the penultimate Vedic text, it is compared to the flower on that tree. The Vedanta Sutra, Vedanta Darshan, it is giving something more. It is giving something purely within the plane of spirit, within the plane of consciousness. So it is giving something more than the general contribution of the Vedas. So it is a very highly respected text within the world of bhakti as well as outside of the world of bhakti. Everyone respects the Vedanta. And then Srimad Bhagavatam is compared to the fruit that flower is producing. If we think of a mango tree, then what is the object? What is the fulfillment? What is the perfection of a mango tree? To produce a mango. So in the same way, we can think of Srimad Bhagavatam, or in gist, the gift of prema, the gift of divine love, of bhakti, as being the real fruit of the Veda. It is the real conclusion and the real gift of the Veda, And everything else that is in the Veda is there to support that end. It is all to bring one to that end.
There was a beautiful thing you said earlier about just even the like insulting the Vaishnavas, you know, or this. And,
yes.
spent some good company with a being named Guru Das. That's one of Prabhupada's disciples. And we were having lunch and it was so sweet. And he said that Srila Prabhupada, anytime anyone would talk gossip, he would instantly get up and just leave the room. Like he would, I just think that's such a beautiful thing, how we can just, you know, so thank you for that. It's a beautiful reminder even to other beings, because we never know where someone is on their path, you know? So
well, that's beautiful to hear about Srila Prabhupada. And our Gurudev, I haven't had the personal company of Srila Prabhupada or my grandfather Guru Srila Sridhar Maharaj, but I did have the fortune of having the association of my Gurudev Srila Govinda Maharaj, and we think of these three as being like our three principal gurus in the modern age. But we saw that nature very much in our Gurudev, you know, that he wouldn't tolerate hearing any type of criticism. Shuddha Shava Prabhu, he was a very dear friend and a wonderful Vaishnava in our community. He had a close relationship with our Guru. And he told of one time when he approached our Guru Srila Govinda Maharaj and he asked him, he said, "Can I ask you something?" Or maybe he said, "Can I say something? I want to tell you something?" And our Gurudev Srila Govinda Maharaj, he responded, as long as you're not going to criticize any Vaishnava, then I'll hear what you have to say. No, he really didn't like to hear anything. And he would, another thing that he used to say was that my religion is to glorify the Vaishnavas, to find my religion, he would say also, is to find fault with myself and to glorify the Vaishnavas. You know, it was very, very fundamental to him. And we also see it is such a crucial point, you know. It is also mentioned at the very beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, you know, this near Matsara is mentioned. You know, what is the criteria for being able to appreciate the gift of Bhagavatam? Near Matsar, one means free from envy. Matsar is envy. So one must be free from the spirit of enviousness. That is the only way through which we can appreciate this gift. And it's also very striking in Upadeshamrita, Srila Rupa Goswami's text. One of the verses there, it is describing different levels of Vaishnavas. And it's very interesting that one of the defining characteristics of the highest level of Vaishnava, the Uttam Adhikar Vaishnava, is that Nindadi Shunya Hridam Ipsita Sangha. This that he's free from any tendency to criticize others. You know, that is how the highest type of Vaishnava, you know, that is one of his one of their defining characteristics. This is a huge discussion, of course, and there's so many different references which we can mention. These are just, you know, a few things which are coming to mind. But yes, it is so crucial, and it is something that our Gurudev emphasized so much, you know. And as you said very nicely, and our Gurudev would say, we don't know who is who or what is what, you know, and our eyes, they don't tell us very much, you know. Through what we see with our objective vision, we cannot really understand who is a real Vaishnava. We don't have the eyes to see. So he emphasized that we must be very, very careful. No, he expressed once, you know, I'm only afraid of one thing, and that is to make an offense to a Vaishnava. You know, that is the only thing that I'm afraid of. And he also said, if I see anyone with even just a little bit of devotion, I am afraid. I want to be very, very careful, with him. I don't want to make any offense, whether a big devotee or a little devotee, anyone who has some little touch of real devotion, we have to honor that, and we must be very careful with that person.
There was one other point you brought up. Sorry if am I like consuming the conversation?
No, please.
Right. So there was something I had spoken to Jayadev about at one point, but there was so I have this thing, it's happened multiple times for me where I'll just be in some sort of sadhana, maybe it's just chanting and or some sort of practice. And I get to this point where it's almost like, I don't, pardon my language, but almost like Param Brahman or something, where I see the infinite in a way, kind of like Krishna unveiling, like with Arjuna, but then it gets too much. And because I don't know if I continue, that it's Sayuj, and then there's no more experience. And so I retract and I shut down. I close the veils, in other words. Does that make sense? And so you said something earlier about having Shraddha to move beyond. And I think that's just what is needed there. Like, I know the story will end in a way, this thing that I think is occurring. And so maybe that's why I retract. There's fear.
I mean, I'm happy for you to make a comment. I can't make any comments on, what's a very personal journey, that you're going through. So I'm happy you're sharing your heart, but I'm not in a position to make any comments. Yeah, but I can say that if we have an authentic connection with the Vaishnava, then we are in a safe position. We're not able, generally speaking, we're not able to estimate where we are on our path. And it is true. It is good that you're cautious, because it's true that our minds can play with us. And we can't always be sure about where we're going, what we're experiencing. That can all be uncertain for us. But if we have a connection with the Vaishnava, if we have the shelter of a genuine Vaishnava, that is something very solid. That is something that is like it's like our Gurudev. He said that, because our Gurudev, he joins the temple when he was very young. He was about 17 years old. And this is in Navadvip, West Bengal. And so every year there would be the monsoon, there would be floods. And when the flood waters would come, then many things would get washed away, right? But our Gurudev, he said one thing that some of the god brothers of his guru, who are like his spiritual uncles, they told him, you are tied to a very big tree. It means that, like, in the flood time, many things are washed away, but if you're tied to a big tree, that tree is very solid, and so you'll be safe. So they made this comment: you are tied to a very big tree. You are safe. You're okay. The guru, the word guru actually means heavy.
The weighty.
So guru is one who is, and means heavy in the sense of spiritual consciousness. The guru is fixed in the highest level of consciousness, and they are not moved by anything of this worldly plane. Whereas by contrast, the disciple is sometimes described as lagu, which means very light. So our position is unstable. One day we may be in a very high zone. Another day we'll be in a lower zone. Another day we'll be out in left field, and et cetera, et cetera. we go in different places at different times, you know, but
Popping around.
hopping around, yes, you know. So this is our safety net, you know. If we are tied to the feet of the Vaishnava, of a genuine guru, then maybe sometimes we may go off to different places, but we can't go so far, you know, and we'll always come back, you know. So that is something very solid for us, you know. That's what keeps my hope alive in Krishna consciousness, that my mind can go in many different places, but I have this shelter of a very great guru, a very great saint, and I know that you know, that is something real. And if I can maintain that connection, and I can try to offer my heart in any small, tiny way, you know, for his cause, for his satisfaction, you know, then in some type of, you know, in an incremental way, you know, it may take millions of lifetimes, but one day I'll get there, you know, one day I'll make it, you know, because I have that connection with him. And even if I don't make it, you know, but just to be on that path, to have some idea of what the highest ideal of life is, and to be doing something in that cause, you know, what else could we want, you know, other than that? So that, you know, everything else, this is something Srila Sridhar Maharaj mentioned, you know, everything in our spiritual practice, it may be something very abstract, but the connection with the devotee, with the saint, with the Vaishnava, that is something concrete. That is something solid. Everything else that we do, we can't be so sure about the value of it. But to do something for the satisfaction of a Vaishnava, that is something solid. You know? So that's the only comment that I can make. It may or may, whatever we're doing, it may or may not be, but the connection with the Vaishnava, that is real. That is something we can depend on.
So what about, but in the old days, they used to have an operator that would make the call to connect, which is like the guru. But then some people call direct, no? Like, must one have the guru to get to Krishna? Or is Krishna, I mean, it almost seems like that in Chaitanya was like kicking down the doors, like, this is for everyone, like, go straight.
But
like,
Lord Chaitanya had a guru.
Very much.
Yeah.
So this
it is definitely true that somebody can directly approach Krishna. That is possible. But what we have understood is that what somebody can get going through the Vaishnavas is something much, much more. It is like the difference. Let's take the example. Let's say the Queen of England. No, I used to use the analogy of the President of America, but now that's such a controversial subject, so I don't use that anymore. So let's say the Queen of England, right? You could say you want to reach out, you want to connect with her. So you could write a letter directly to her, and you'll be like one name on a huge pile. And maybe if you're lucky, you'll get a polite response, right? Or you could try, if you have some connections, you know, let's say you know some relatives, or you know, if somebody who works for the Queen, you know someone who knows someone who the Queen loves, you know, then they'll be able to get you in, and right away you'll be accepted, you know, because the Queen already loves that person. So it's like it's a shortcut, and it's like, oh, you know that person, then you're in, you know, I already like you, you know, that's the difference. It's like the difference between being accepted as part of Krishna's family and being one of the general subjects, something like that, you know. Our Gurudev, to put it very simply, our Gurudev, that is one angle. And another angle is that it is the proof of love, that if you love who the Lord loves, then that proves you have real love. You know, our Gurudev would he would use that expression, love me, love my dog. You know, if I see that you love my dog, then I know you really love me. You know, it's one thing to just have a relationship with me, but I see if you love my friends and my family members, then that means you really love me. You really want to be a part of my life. You know, Krishna doesn't just mean Krishna, but Krishna means like a whole system. It means a whole group, you know. It is like any great person, a king or a queen or a president. It's not just them, but there's a whole group, there's a whole society, there's a whole world that's surrounding them. So it is like that, you know, if we can get a place in the hearts of those who are already dear to Krishna, who are a part of that family, you know, then our place will be so much stronger. Another thing is that, especially in the Rupanuga line, which is the line which we are following, the followers of Rupa Goswami, there is actually more emphasis on the Ashaya Vigraha. You know, there is the Ashaya Vigraha means the devotee who is like who is compared to devotee who is compared to a shelter, the embodiment of shelter. You know, so there is Krishna. Krishna is described as the Vishai sometimes, and Vishai means in the position of the enjoyer. So this is a way in which the Krishna and his devotee are characterized sometimes. The enjoyer, Krishna, the Vishai, the enjoyer, or also the recipient of all enjoyment, of all pleasure, of all worship. And the Ashaya Vigraha means who is the supplier of enjoyment to that Vishaya, to Krishna, and who is also the embodiment of shelter for others. So in the Rupanuga line, there is actually more emphasis on the worship of the Ashaya Vigraha. And that in the ultimate position is Radharani, the Shakti, right? So there is Shakti and Shaktiman. You know, Radharani is the Shakti, the supreme Shakti, the supreme potency, supreme energy of Krishna. And she is the ultimate Ashaya Vigraha, the ultimate servitor and giver of shelter to others. And Krishna, he is the ultimate enjoyer. So in the Rupanuga line, there is, in the highest sense, there is more emphasis on the service, the worship of the Ashaya Vigraha, which ultimately is Srimati Radharani. So it is, our focus, and this isn't something we talk about every day because, we are very cautious in how we will approach, her divine service. We don't want that to be something misunderstood or misrepresented in any way. But this is ultimately where our line is going and what our gurus hold to be the highest thing, So it is headed really more to her camp. In a more of a general sense, we'll say Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. We're the Hare Krishnas. It's the Krishna movement, right? That's more of a general idea. But in a more specific sense, the focus is more on Srimati Radharani. That is really the end of this line. So it is ultimately going to her camp, the camp of Srimati Radharani, headed by Lalita Saki, who is her topmost assistant, and more specifically in the group of Shri Rupa Manjari, who is one of the younger maidens within that abode, So it is more, the focus is more there. Ultimately, the focus is more there on the Shakti side, on the potency side, more than on the Krishna side, And so in this world that manifests through Guru, when our vision is developed enough, then one will have the Guru, have the vision of Guru in that way. One will see the potency of Srimati Radharani within Guru, That is at a higher stage, it depends upon one's level of realization. Otherwise, more generally, we will conceive of Nityananda Prabhu, we will conceive of Guru as Nityananda Prabhu. Nityananda Prabhu, he is the head of the four rasas, Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya rasa, servitude, or I missed out Shanta ras, the passive mood of service. So, passive mood of a servitor, friend, parental mood. Nityananda Prabhu, he is covering these four those within those four. He is the head of that zone of seva. He is the guru within those four rasas. And then Srimati Radharani, she is guru in the Madhura rasa zone, in the conjugal relationship with Krishna. So ultimately, that is the meaning of guru.
Can I ask a question or for some clarification? A lot of times in the West, I don't know if it's a Sahaja influence or something, but there's a lot of this calling each other or saying, hey, Radhe, or chanting Radhe publicly and like really kind of in a celebratory way. Could you make some comment on that? And Radhe Sham, a lot of people do this Radhe Sham kind of thing, all this stuff. And for me, it seems strange to me because I'm not used to that.
And for me, it seems beautiful.
But a lot of people are really into it in the West. And I was wondering if you had anything to mention about that, or maybe what the acharyas might have said about that, or how they relate to that. Because I don't hear that in our line so much, and I'm not used to it. So.
Well, I mean, I'm not, I can't say, who, what consciousness someone else is in. I can't say where they're coming from. So I don't want to make any comment about that. It really depends on their consciousness. But I can just say that the way that we have been raised is to be cautious about taking her name. I'm not going to say anything about why others may say that, others may do that, but I can just say it is something that we are very careful about, because it is something very high, something very refined, and it is something, the worship of Radharani is we could say something like what we are keeping on an upper shelf, something like in one place, our Gurudev, he said, Krishna is like a big public administrator, and Radharani, she is the queen of Krishna's homeland. That is something more private and more hidden. And we can also say, I mean, I don't have any feeling, I can't say I have any feeling, but the mood of some devotees is they feel shy to take her name. They feel her name is so sacred that they are shy even to take it. And we see, and our Gurudev would point out that in Srimad Bhagavatam, her name is not even mentioned once. You know, there are other places her name is mentioned in the Puranas, Garga Samhita. There are other scriptures in which her name is mentioned, but it is significant in Srimad Bhagavatam. Shukadev has not taken her name even once. You know, she is indicated, and there are a few places where we can understand that she is being referred to, but directly her name has not been mentioned. And our Gurudev explained, because, you know, what was the context? Shukadev Goswami was speaking to an assembly of great sages. And these sages, they were very advanced in different fields, but more within the general teachings of the Vedas, you know, within the more, in the more refined conceptions of bhakti, you know, they were not familiar with that. You know, this was something, you know, Krishna Lila was something beyond the scope of their comprehension, you know, that the Param Brahma, the Supreme Absolute, will appear as a teenage boy, as a cowherd boy, and will have, you know, so many girlfriends. You know, this is something that is cannot be understood according to general religious views, you know. And so they did not want her to be dishonored in any way, and so they chose not to take her. So he chose not to take her name. So it is in a spirit of caution that we see our gurus. They have not been, you know, so explicit in mentioning her name. And for us, it is usually on days like Radhastami, the appearance day of Radharani, or during the month of Kartik, you know, and maybe a few other occasions when we will sing songs which are directly related to her, where we will speak something about what we have heard and understood about her glories and her Leela, you know. But otherwise, it is something which, as I said, we're keeping on an upper shelf, you know. And again, not to pass any judgment on what others are doing. Just this is how we have been taught, and this is how we are trying to proceed.
Yeah, I think it's really, for me, just the Vaishnav family back east in New Orleans, like, and in Florida and different places, Alachua and different things like that. It's almost like this moment of pure devotion you feel when someone's like, Jai Radhe, and you just like, everything shatters for everyone in that moment, and they all come together in this like beloved moment, and all the kleshas and obscurations just fall away in this moment of like clarity and love. And so for me, it's just nectar. So that's, and I also honor, thank you for teaching me as well, so I can also be aware of this and, you know, bow more to her feet. So,
because to imagine beyond that, like she's beyond weight, like that's not even a drop of perspiration on the drip coming off of her toenail, that highest experience. Like we can't even maintain this body if we could even begin to think about, if we could begin to understand, and this is my understanding, to even begin to understand her, I would not even be able to stay in this body. I would not be able to maintain it. I mean, like, you know. So I know I don't know. I know anytime I'm saying her name, it's absolutely the farthest shadow of anything, you know, but that's just me, you know. It's other people might have a deeper understanding than me, but I don't have any understanding. I know that I don't even begin to understand. That's all I know.
Yeah, it can become very discouraging, actually, you know, like I think sometimes, you know, we sing so many songs, you know, but if we could appreciate just one phrase in one of our songs, you know, we wouldn't be able to keep singing, you know. There was one occasion when Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he gave second initiation. He gave Gayatri initiation to some devotees, and then they went out the room, and they began in the, you know, in the Gayatri mantras, there's a mention of flowers, pushpa, and they were, these disciples, they were discussing something about the grammar or something about the language in that phrase in the Gayatri mantra, and it was their discussion was lacking lacking that depth of heart and real appreciation for what they just received. It was somewhat superficial, we could say. And Srila Saraswati Thakur inside his room, he heard that discussion going on, and he felt disappointed, and he made some comment. He said, "I've been trying to offer a flower to the body of Krishna for thousands of lifetimes, and still I am unsuccessful." That was his comment. So yes, it is for one who has real appreciation. There's so much depth in everything, about our spiritual, practice, for lack of a better word. At every moment, this is really the difference between us and the realized souls, that they are super conscious, and that was something that was so special about being in our Gurudev's company, because we all felt that, and that was something that really captured us about him, that made his presence so powerful. That was why we could sit with him silently, for long periods he didn't need to say anything. We felt so fulfilled just to sit in his presence at times. And why? Because he was so conscious. So it was like every moment with him was so meaningful. There was so much substance there because he was so conscious in every instant. That's really our disease, a lack of consciousness. And the proper consciousness, then, every moment is so full, every moment is so complete, and there's so much substance in everything. So yes, to Srila Sridhar, there's one talk of Srila Sridhar Maharaj where someone's asking him, is it enough to chant 16 rounds and to distribute some books? Is that enough for us to be able to go back to Godhead? And Srila Sridhar Maharaj, the conversation went on for some time. Srila Sridhar Maharaj was very patient, and he was trying to make the point that it is about substance, it is about quality, not quantity. And very patiently, but unfortunately, this man wasn't really getting the point, And then finally, Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he said, "Do you think that the Braja Gopis in Vrindavan, they're sitting and chanting japa every day?" And he said, "Just one name of Krishna is enough to make them mad." So, in this world, we may be obsessed with how many rounds we're chanting, and how many rounds did you chant, and how many rounds did you chant? But actually, just one name should be enough, if we can really realize that, Anyway, we are running a little late, but
I have to go serve the servants of the servants.
Thank you for joining us. Wonderful to meet you.
I know I'm tied to the tree just seeing you. Thank you. Bowing at your feet, Ma. Thank you.
And Nandarani Didi's also joined us. Dandavat pranams. And also
Dandavats, Devi. Dandavats.
Wonderful to have you with us. And also Rukmini has joined us from Alachua, Florida.
Dandavats, Vishakha Devi.
Dandavats. Very happy to have you with us.
Very happy to hear you.
All right. Well, maybe we'll sign out then for this week. Chinmoy Prabhu, anything you want to add? Any final thoughts?
Pure nectar. Basically, that's what I heard today.
Jai Shri Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj ki jai, all the assembled devotees ki jai, all the world devotees ki jai, Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai, Itai Gaur Premanande.